Fireworks night started a little bit early for the San Francisco Giants and their fans last night as Patrick Bailey, quickly becoming a mainstay in this league and perhaps a star in this league, delivered a three-run walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth to send everybody home happy.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday. Today is Saturday. Craziness. If you follow me on Twitter, you will understand. Talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. I've been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. No, wait. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And where we get started is by discussing this big win. The Giants continue their stretch recently of winning the first game of series, and I continue to think that's a huge key because it sets you up to have, to win a series and perhaps sweep a series. That would be, a good thing for this team, this Giants team that's now just one game under 500 at this point. And, they've had World Series winning type years where they were hovering around 500 for quite a while. And so 13 and 14, nothing to be concerned about at this early stage of the season. But the way they did it last night, I mean, pitching, defense, and a huge, I guess you could say, timely hitting, right? 3-run homer for Patrick Bailey. There was something, Patrick Bailey he's been the Giants' best player this season, and we all know about the defense. There were a little bit, there were some concerns early on in the season. I was getting mailbag questions about his defense and throwing problems and all that, but it's kind of normalized, and that's what I said would happen. But he's hitting. Patrick Bailey, after yesterday, is now hitting .297 with a .365 on base and a .516 slugging. And if you can get anything like that kind of production out of your catcher, who's also elite defensively, then that's a star player. And so I'm not going to jump the gun on 75 plate appearances. I don't necessarily think Patrick Bailey will keep up that level of performance. It's about 45% better than league average offense, and that is not saying league average catcher offense, because league average catcher offense is significantly worse than league average general offense in the game. But Patrick Bailey, somebody named Patrick Bailey, if we remember that from last year. That was just what a moment. And it was just like immediate upon the winning run getting to third with nobody out. And it's because there was a wild pitch. And this is against David Bednar, who's one of the best closers in the game. And it was a high fastball. It was 97 miles an hour. And he just tomahawked it, just turned on it, and just hit a blast into the arcade in right. And so, Bailey's emergence has been, last year it was like probably the best thing that happened on this team. And this year so far, his kind of overall performance, it may be the best thing that's happened on this team. And if he can become, even if he's just decent with the bat, he's a really good player. But if he can be good with the bat, then he is in fact a star player. And he's young and under team control for a long time, and so it's quite exciting. And then you pair that with the other kind of standouts in this game: Kyle Harrison, 22 years old, and 6 shutout innings. Camilo Doval, also young and under team control and homegrown, with a huge high wire escape job that we'll get into later. Um, these are like young homegrown players. And suddenly, like you look at this Giants team, there's nobody left from any of the championship runs. Like they fully turned the page on that era, and this new era is here. And you look at, suddenly, I mean, Jung Hoo Lee is like the same age as Patrick Bailey. Well, Jung Hoo Lee's a little bit older, but for example, he's a young player. Jung Hoo Lee's only 25, and Patrick Bailey is 24, and Tyro Estrada is 20 something, 28. And and then you start to look at, Tyler Fitzgerald is a young player, 26. Logan Webb, 27. Kyle Harrison, 22. Jordan Hicks is only 27. Keaton Wynn, 26. Camilo Doval, 26. And so, and then some young guys in the pen too, like Eric Miller and others. And so, yeah, I mean, all of a sudden youth and athleticism and all that. I don't know if any of these. I mean, Jung Hoo Lee, my goodness, like we didn't get a chance to talk about one of the plays he made in center field. In was it last night? No, it was. Was it last night? He made just a tremendous. I think it was tremendous running catch in right center field. I mean, this guy is fast. He's got a good arm. He covers a ton of ground. He doesn't strike out. I just think Jung Hoo, it's looking like a good signing, and he hasn't fully reached his potential yet. And, this is a team that needs some star talent, though. They've got one in Webb, Logan Webb, but a star position player. I was a little not skeptical about Bailey, but like pumping the brakes on Patrick Bailey as like a bona fide star based on what was, like he had a really hot start last year to his major league career, and people were anointing him Buster Posey 2.0 like immediately, and I just thought that was very premature and unfair to Bailey and to Buster, kind of. But now we've got more. He's just when I look at the numbers, I mean, so the weighted on base average is 381, which is exceptionally good. And the expected weighted on base average is 362, which is also very good. So a little bit worse, but also very good. And so when you pair that with, we've analyzed his defense, his pop times, basically the quickness with which he gets the ball down to second base on a steal attempt. Those are elite. His framing, last year he was the best framer in the sport. This year, I mean, probably by the end of the year, he'll end up being maybe the best framer in the sport again as a catcher, right? And then if you add offense to that, then my goodness, do you really have something? And like I said, he's 24 years old. He turns 25 in May, late May, and he entered the year with less than a year of service time. And so you're going to get like 6 seasons counting this one. He's not eligible to be a free agent until after the 2029 season. So 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Yeah, that's 6 years counting this one. And so that is a good thing because Patrick Bailey and to do it in this is like kind of sick of me in a way, but like Joey Bart had just entered the game for the Pirates, and I watched the pregame show on mute, and they were talking about Bart, and I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to like 7 games that he's played with the Pirates, but he's done well in those 7 games offensively. But, it was a wild pitch, but he let the ball get away that allowed the runners to advance to second and third that set it up for Bailey. And just the next pitch with Joey Bart sitting right there. I mean, it was just like a not told you so or whatever moment, but it was like, there's Bart, there's Bailey, and Bailey does that right in front of Joey Bart. I wish Joey Bart nothing but the best, but I couldn't ignore the fact that that happened with Bart letting the pitch kind of squirt away from him and then Bailey blasting one deep into the night. So coming up in just a minute, we're going to get into Kyle Harrison and the pitching in this game, the pitching that allowed the Giants to win this game, because there were all kinds of times when they could have lost it, but they held on. and held off the Pirates through 9 scoreless innings. So we'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by DoorDash. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom on DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend 15 plus dollars on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You really just can't go wrong with so many options. Plus, you get the convenience of shopping on your phone so you don't have to be the one scrambling, driving around to whatever store is open that will have something your mom might happen to like. Trust me, I've been a DoorDash user for a long time, and yeah, Dash Pass included. So it is the way to go. Order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. That's Locked On MLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. All right, as promised, the pitching. Kyle Harrison, the 22-year-old kid. I mean, this was, in my estimation, his best outing of the year. He pitched 6 scoreless innings. Yeah, I mean, it's the first time he's allowed fewer. I mean, his first outing of the year was quite good in San Diego. 6 innings, 2 runs. But this one, 6 innings, no runs. It is technically a weaker opponent, yes, but 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, no walks. What's incredible about what Kyle Harrison is doing is that his walks have been low, and he's among the leaders in lowest walk rate. And that's just like a can't predict baseball moment. Like, this is a guy who everybody kind of agreed his biggest issue was command. And then all of a sudden, through 6 starts, he's got like one of the lowest walk rates in the game. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, on Monday, we're going to be breaking down this series. I know I also put out topics for a prompt for a mailbag, and so we will get to those eventually. It's been a little chaotic for those of you watching on YouTube. I'm in a hotel room now, not a closet. If you saw me the other day, I was in a closet. So things have been a little wild, but yes, today is Saturday. We don't normally, we're Monday through Friday, but yeah, also a reminder, you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search the word Giants. And also a reminder about Postcast. After every game with Eric Engel on Locked On Sports Bay Area on YouTube, you can get instant reaction to the game. That includes on the weekends. That includes, it's like instant reaction. And you can go on YouTube. It's not this channel. It's Locked On Sports Bay Area. So check it out, because you'll also get, when they're in season, 49ers, Warriors, other teams like that. And so, and it's a live reaction after every game. So it's definitely worth checking out. And then the feed from that does show up on this podcast feed, which you've probably already noticed if you're a regular listener. So with that said, I want to get into Kyle Harrison and just the 22-year-old kid, who now suddenly has numbers that are starting to look quite encouraging. I mean, he's got a 4.09 ERA, had a 4.15 last year, and development is not linear, right? And so like sometimes you can just make a jump. Logan Webb, check out his first couple of seasons in the major leagues, for example. I mean, seriously, I'm going to check him out right this second and tell you, because I just think clearly the potential is there. Like, Kyle Harrison has the potential every time he goes out, to me. Like, he could just have an overpowering outing. And that's kind of what this was last night. But yeah, the first 2 seasons of Logan Webb's career, 94 innings, 5.36 ERA with the Giants. 2019, 2020, Logan Webb threw 94 innings, 21 appearances, 19 starts. So he pitched out of the bullpen twice, which I don't remember at all. 5.36 ERA, 94 innings. So how many career innings does Kyle Harrison have? 67 and two thirds. So it just goes to show you, like, just, because Kyle Harrison hasn't been spectacular necessarily all the time, doesn't mean that jump isn't in there for him potentially. And I think we all can see the potential. And last night was a good glimpse at it. And for Harrison, I mean, he's pitched, like I said, 67 and two thirds career innings with a 4.12 ERA, which is right around normal, like league average. And so you're getting like league average production out of a 22-year-old kid who has clear upside, and that's exciting. And like I said, like with Patrick Bailey, you're suddenly talking about young players making an impact at the major league level with these two guys. And so, and then Doval, I mean, just three homegrown players. Doval played a huge role in this win as well. And Ryan Walker. This was like a big day for like young, homegrown Giants players. And that's exciting because I think it was like beyond time to turn the page from the old era. Love those guys to death, but like the Brandon Belts, Evan Longoria's, Brandon Crawford's of the world. I mean, those guys are gone. And then it's like, whose team is this? And then they fill in the gaps too with like a Matt Chapman, and a Jung-Hoo Lee and Jordan Hicks. Those are like some savvy signings too, because those players are young too. It's like it's rare to get free agents who are young. That's kind of by definition they're not young because they have been in the league a long time. But Hicks came up when he was super young, so he's only 27, and Lee is a different. Like he came up in Korea, when he was a teenager. And that's what allowed him to get to this point and being only 25 years old. And I mean, we can already see that Lee is making a fast adjustment to the big leagues. And I think that improvement is, you can reasonably expect continued improvement from him. And I think he's been a bit unlucky if you look at some of the batted ball data, and then the defense and speed continues to impress me on a daily basis. But yes, in the absence of Blake Snell, who's got that left adductor strain, which I think is like a groin strain. I honestly thought it was like in the in the in the not in the shoulder, but like an upper body injury. But I believe probably should know this, but he said it was like a groin. So yeah, and that's an important. I don't know. He hopes that he caught it early, but in the absence of Blake Snell, you've got Webb, yes, you've got Harrison. I mean, you've got Hicks, you've got Keaton Winn pitching well. Becomes just a huge piece, and so for him to go out and pitch like this last night was a very encouraging sign. So just to look at Kyle Harrison, I mean, he's averaging 93 miles an hour with his fastball. That is down from 93.6 miles an hour last year. Just worth noting. His curveball usage is down from 26.5% last year to 11% this year. Same velocity essentially. Changeup usage is way up from 10.9% to 22. So he's basically doubled his changeup usage and more than cut his curveball usage in half, and is throwing more fastballs. So, and he's kind of filling up the zone. That's what's crazy. So yeah, so he's pitched, I'm going to make sure he counts here, qualified 33 innings. So if we look at the leaders in baseball among qualified pitchers, I'm pretty sure he's going to qualify here. And we're going to look at walk percentage. Kyle Harrison is seventh. He's got the seventh best walk percentage. Logan Webb, 13th best. Uh, that's wild. And we're talking how many pitchers here? 79 pitchers qualify here, and he's seventh best. There's only 6 pitchers in the game who are qualified. I mean, it's 3.7% is just ridiculously low. The league average is 9%, and so he's less than half of the league average. And what it's just crazy, given that there was so much, concern about Kyle Harrison's ability to throw strikes, and also not just concern, but like, analysis that the one thing that might hold him back is an ability to throw strikes, but he has been doing it, and it is playing a big role in his success because he's not had overwhelming strikeout numbers, um, kind of striking out hitters at a league average rate roughly, but throwing a ton of strikes. And the home run rate, I have talked about, he had been giving up a lot of homers, like he had given up a homer every start for several starts to start the year, but I kept saying like that takes a long time to stabilize. And sure enough, like I believe it's two straight outings now without giving up a home run. So he went four straight outings giving up a homer, including two in his first outing, but now two straight outings with no homers. And so all of those are getting under control. And I must point out the ERA is 409, but the expected ERA is 3.87. The fielding independent pitching is 3.85. And so, those numbers are indicative that maybe, there are some better results that he deserves based on the way he's pitched, and the ERA is maybe a tick higher than we should expect. And so if he's a guy who can give you like as a 22-year-old and a 3.85 ERA or so, then that is very much a good thing. And like I said, remember Logan Webb, he really struggled in more innings than Harrison has thrown to start his major league career. And I think we all see the potential with Harrison. So we'll turn the page from Harrison and on to the bullpen. Ryan Walker and Camilo Doval, just incredible escape jobs, both of them. It seemed like for sure the Giants were going to blow this lead, or not lead, but blow this tie and give up some runs. But both Ryan Walker and Camilo Doval saved the day with high wire acts. And we'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. I'm logging in right now, checking out MLB, checking out today's game for the Giants, tonight's game against the Pirates, and the Giants are favorites. It seems like every time we look, the Giants are favorites, so that tells us something a little bit. So their money line is at minus 152. The run spread is minus 1.5 for the Giants, and that those odds are at plus 146. Over under set at 7.5 runs. That's pretty low. I think the Giants might kind of jump on Martin Perez. That's just my hope. Maybe I might take the over on that one. So just throwing it out there, win or lose, you get 150 in bonus bets. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, here we go. We are going to discuss the high wire acts of Camilo Doval and Ryan Walker specifically. My goodness, things got weird. I thought Walker was for sure going to surrender the lead there in the seventh. Not, I keep saying the lead, give up a run and not have it be scoreless anymore. After Harrison went 6 shutout innings, Pirates pitcher Quinn Priester was also excellent. But Ryan Walker, he had 2 outs and nobody on and a 2-strike count. And then there was a pitch that kind of looked like strike 3. It almost looked like the hitter swung. It was just off the plate, just a slider that swept all the way across the plate. Don't know how the hitter laid off, but he did. And then I think it became a full count. And then the hitter got a single. And then Walker walked the next batter. And then he hit the next batter. So he was just all of a sudden in a bases loaded jam. And then there was a pitch that Patrick Bailey didn't frame because he like got up to kind of maybe potentially throw down to third, and it was a strike. But because of him getting up and receiving the pitch the way he did, it took a strike away, and so that was a big deal at the time. I think it made it 2-0 instead of, or Did it make it 1-1 instead of 0-2? Whatever it was. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The count is hugely important, especially in those types of situations. But then on the next pitch, Bailey framed a pitch at the top of the zone, and got a strike call that was enormous. Like it, maybe that would have made it 2-1, and instead it was 1-2. Something like I forget the exact details, but every pitch in that situation was huge, given that Walker was wild, and he was, a walk would give the Pirates a run and the lead. And so it ended up being a two-strike count. I believe it was Brian Reynolds at the plate, uh, and he struck him out on a pitch that looked like it got away from Bailey, but it hit Reynolds in the foot, like a back foot slider, literally hit him in the foot. And so if he didn't swing, that's a run. But he swung at the pitch. He swung at the pitch, and it was strike three, and the ball was dead because it hit him. And so they didn't even have to get, complete the strikeout by touching a base or throwing to first or whatever. So that was just a huge break. It feels like the Giants are very fortunate to have escaped that situation. Ryan Walker is another guy who has emerged as a really good homegrown player, and he came up last year, but he is 28 years old, so he spent a lot of time in the minor leagues, but he's got an ERA of 3, an expected ERA of 2.12, fielding independent pitching of 2.19. I mean, this guy is legit. Like in his major league career now, he's pitched 76 in the third innings, and he's got a 3.18 ERA, 3.39 fielding independent pitching. I mean, he's just been good. And yeah, I mean, strikeout rate 30%, doesn't really walk a lot of guys, kind of a league average walk rate. But it's the strikeouts and keeping the ball in the ballpark. He hasn't allowed a home run yet this season. So career home runs per nine is under one, which is, if you're under one, you're doing a good job. But I don't know. It's nice to just have kind of developed another bullpen guy, good bullpen arm. And then you talk about Walker, and then you go to Tyler Rogers, who's also a homegrown player who pitched a clean inning. And I mean, it's funny how much, you know, people kind of talk poorly about Tyler Rogers a lot, but this guy has a 2.97 career ERA in 288 innings. 2.97. 2.97 in 288 innings, all with the Giants. I mean, how on earth can you look me in the eye and say there's anything wrong with Tyler Rogers and that he's a gimmick and that you can't use him like against a team multiple times? Like he's seen everybody multiple times at this point, 288 innings. People know Tyler Rogers, and yet he just continues to produce at a high level. 2.97 ERA, and he pitched a scoreless inning. He hasn't walked a batter all season. That's awesome. I mean, literally 0 walks. So he's leading the league in walk rate. Ground ball rate is ridiculously high at 68%. The average launch angle against him is negative, which you always love to see. And yeah, I mean, Tyler Rogers just doing Tyler Rogers things. And then in the ninth inning, Camilo Doval got into some serious trouble, and he got ahead of who was it? He got ahead of O'Neal Cruz 0-2, I think it was, and then he threw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball or something, and it hit a rocket of a single to center field. So it was like, uh-oh. And then the next hitter, Michael A. Taylor, hit a line drive to right. And this is like a play that won't get noticed much or talked about much, but Mike Yastrzemski getting over there in a hurry and keeping it from going to the wall saved a run. And so that's like an element of defense that doesn't show up. And, people evaluate defense by fielding percentage. You're not seeing it there. That's why that's one of the zillion reasons fielding percentage is not a great, it's certainly not robust as a measure of fielding. Yaz like sprinting over there and cutting the ball off, and not only that, keeping the hitter to a single. And this is a fast runner in Michael A. Taylor, and so it could have been like a double with a run, but instead it was a single with a guy on third. But still, sketchy situation, and then somehow, oh, it was so okay. So then Rowdy Tellez comes up. I feel like at somehow Michael A. Taylor got to second base. He did. There must have been a steal. There was a steal. So he ended up getting to second anyway, but nonetheless, Doval then struck out Rowdy Tellez, who was pinch hitting, a left-handed hitter, strikeout situation to the max, and he struck him out. And then Andrew McCutchen worked a walk, so his bases loaded. Brian Reynolds coming up. Brian Reynolds is good. Brian Reynolds, formerly of the Giants, traded him for Zach Wheeler, and no, sorry, traded him for McCutchen, who's not Zach Wheeler. What am I talking about? Traded him for Andrew McCutchen, who, that was a horrible move in retrospect. And McCutchen, ironically, is now back on the Pirates. But Brian Reynolds hit a comebacker to Doval. Doval threw him a first pitch strike, and then he threw him a second pitch a strike with a fastball on the first pitch, and then a slider down and away, comebacker to Doval, and he just made a really nice play, snagging the ball, throwing to home, where Bailey was sure to have his foot on the plate to get the force out there. We're talking bases loaded here in a 0-0 game with one out. And then the throw to first, Bailey said it tailed, like he had, because there's a new rule that the runners have more of a lane to run in. And so Bailey said it was hard to get an angle there to throw to first without hitting the runner. And his throw, it kind of wrapped around the runner. And Wilmer Flores had to like reach to his left as the ball kind of tailed to his left with the runner coming into him. So that ball could have easily ended up down the line, and then all heck would have broken loose there. But this was a game the Giants, I feel like, were fortunate to win, but at the same time, they executed when they needed to. And it was just so many young, homegrown players, and it was just exciting and reason for optimism. And Bailey, and I just thought it was a great, great win for the Giants, and in game one of a series, and against a team that you should beat, but it is not that easy, as we've seen in recent years. And it's baseball, and any team can beat any other team. Giants have had a hard time sometimes with teams they should be beating in recent seasons. And so, anyway, when you win game one of the series, sets you up really well to win the series. If you can just win one of the next two, and that's where the Giants stand now with two more to go against the Pirates. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, on Monday we'll be recapping, not really recapping, but breaking down whatever else goes down in this series. Jordan Hicks on the mound tonight. Not entirely positive who's, I guess it would be Keaton Winn on Sunday. So the Giants going for another series win and trying to get back to 500. But for all we know, they're over 500, on Monday when we discuss it, when we talk again. So thanks again for listening. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance. Thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again on Monday. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.